You live your life as if you knew you were going to make it into your 60s and 70s. But guess what? Nothing is guaranteed in life. And why am I saying that? So, it's Monday, almost 3 in the morning. Just got done at the gym. And as I was going to the gym, around 1 in the morning, I've seen a major fucking crash on a road where no crash should really happen because it's a 50 kilometer zone. The car was pretty banged up. I mean, you could tell the person was probably doing about 100, 120 kilometers an hour. Crashed into a fucking tree. High impact. You could see blood. Emergency on scene. But it just goes to show that, yes, while we are all gonna die at some point, we don't really know when it's gonna happen. And now I'm not saying that person passed away, but at the end of the day, for every action, there is a reaction. And so you have to be really careful about which actions you take in life, because you never know what kind of reaction you're gonna get. And you know what? If you're being stupid and reckless, you're gonna pay the price. And so it is, especially as you get older, really important that you realize being reckless is not gonna get you anywhere. Showing up or showing off in front of your friends is not gonna get you anywhere. In fact, most of the time it can only really hurt you. Whether it can hurt you physically, it can hurt you mentally, or it can hurt your reputation. The way you show up in front of others is really, really important. Not to present yourself in a certain light and look like the good person and good guy. You want to be authentic, but at the same time you still want to present yourself in a mature and rational way, so that you don't lose the respect from others, and ultimately so that you don't pay the price of being stupid. When we are maybe in our late teens, early 20s, we feel really invincible. We feel like nothing is gonna happen to us. I know I felt like that before as well. I was street racing, I was speeding a lot, I was kind of showing off in front of friends. But where did that really get me? What? I felt good in the moment. I had the adrenaline rush. I was happy, no doubt. But it cost me thousands of dollars in lawyer fees. It cost me my license for a couple years as well. And on top of that, they wanted to put me in jail. Now, thankfully, I never end up in jail. But I did have to spend the money that I had at that time to avoid it. And I had to go through the stress of what is gonna happen. And I'm not sure what is gonna happen. I spoke with one lawyer, he said, prepare yourself to go to jail, because I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get you out. Now, it could have been his tactic to scare me, and if he was to win my case, he would be like the star in my eyes, right? But at the end of the day, you shouldn't be going through all this shit. And you don't have to go through it if you are rational. And if you really think about the effects that your actions may have on your life or on others. A lot of you guys believe or think that there is always tomorrow. I'm gonna just do something tomorrow. I'll start tomorrow. I'll go to the gym tomorrow. I'll start a business tomorrow. You're always waiting for the perfect moment. But at the end of the day, and as I mentioned in the previous video, there is never a perfect fucking moment. The perfect moment is the one that you make. And it could be right now. There is a lot of guys like me these days who make videos like that, just talk about their life experiences, and they share what they've been through and kind of share their wisdom. But something that we all share is that we don't wait for the perfect moment. The moment we have the thoughts, we share them, we make the video, and we upload it. We are not waiting around until, I don't feel good, I'll just record it tomorrow. We do it regardless of how we feel. We do it in the moment, and we don't fuck around. I could go home right now, eat, and kind of go about my day, because I do still have a couple hours to go in front of me. But I would rather sit here and kind of think about what I've seen tonight, because even though I didn't know that person, I understand what they did is not a pleasant situation. And I just want to emphasize the fact that, like I said, you don't know when your life is going to end. Maybe you go to sleep, you feel phenomenal, you feel healthy, nothing is bothering you, and then you wake up the next morning in the hospital. That's how quickly life can really surprise us oftentimes. We may not think about any underlying issues until they really show up. That's why it is important, we prioritize certain things such as nutrition, doctor checkups, blood work, and we stay on top of that. When we are young, again, we feel like we are invincible, nothing can happen to us. Why would it happen to me? I've been on top of my shit, but why me? But you really want to be proactive rather than reactive, because again, life is going to surprise you. You may surprise yourself based on what you do. And so stop wasting your time, stop wasting your potential, and stop waiting for the right day. If you want something, you do it in the moment. You start it right when the thought comes into your head. Especially if it's something that has been in the back of your mind for a long time. If it gives you butterflies in your stomach, when you know it's what you should be doing but you're afraid, that's really the path that you need to fucking take. Don't ignore the feelings. Don't ignore what your brain, what your body is trying to tell you. You're always gonna hesitate, and that's very normal for us humans. But you have to be able to take that hesitation and use it to your advantage. You have to be able to recognize what really matters to you, what matters in your life, and go after it, chase it, no matter how uncomfortable it might be. If you never really had to struggle in your life, and we all have different paths in life, some of us might be from a wealthy family, some of us may not be so fortunate. That's understandable. But regardless of where you come from, I do believe you have to put yourself through the struggle. Because the struggle is gonna teach you a lot more than comfort will. It's gonna teach you about yourself, it's gonna give you life experiences, and it's gonna build your character. There is a lot of people who might have money, they might have wealth, but they have nothing else besides that. Their whole life, is about materialistic things, about looking good in front of others. It's about being perceived a certain way. Perhaps, they may lack depth, and how is the depth built? You build it through living life, through life experiences, putting yourself out there, understanding the social dynamics, understanding yourself, not being afraid to go out and live your life. Fighting for what matters. Money comes, money goes. It's like water. But something that will always stay with you is who you become in the process. The skills, the personality traits, your character. Those things will remain with you until the day that you die. But money? What is really money these days? At the end of the day, it's just a number in a bank account. You can't even hold all the money that you have. As much as money is important in today's day and age, and it has the ability to amplify your life and make your life better, it's not guaranteed it will stay with you. You may get emotional, you may get greedy, and you can lose it all in a matter of weeks, days, hours. That's why you have to be strategic and you have to be logical, because again, for every action there is a reaction. And something that we do tend to see, especially now, the faster a person makes money, the higher the chance they will lose it. And why is that? Because if you made a lot of money in a short amount of time, there's a very high chance you're gonna increase your living situation. In a sense that, you're gonna essentially upgrade your lifestyle far too quickly without adapting to the fact you now have money. When you make your first couple $1,000s, maybe first couple of six figures, you have to strategically allocate it, because at the end of the day, 6 figures is not a lot. Sure, it's gonna solve certain issues in your life, but it's not gonna solve everything. And if you lose it all, and you have increased your lifestyle during that time period, it's gonna really hurt you. And it could really set you back on your journey of becoming great. And that's why you wanna learn how to manage your finances, whether it's investing your money into safe assets, into assets that give you monthly returns, stocks. Some people might get real estate. It kind of all depends on where you live. And I think first and foremost, you should stay away from spending your money on stupid shit that you don't need. I get it, you open up your Instagram and you see these guys, wearing Louis Vuittons and having Gucci bags, and you want it as well. You think that's what happiness really means. But you also want to understand that happiness really comes internally. It has to come from within you. The materialistic things might make you happy for a certain period of time, but it's gonna fade away until you get another possession in your hands. But that is gonna fade away as well. And so you're gonna have to purchase something else. And you're gonna be stuck in this circle of just buying shit you don't fucking need, because you're not internally happy. You have to be happy with who you are as a person and stop relying on external factors to satisfy you. It's fine to treat yourself, I don't deny it. But what happens is who you are, where you've come from, and where you're going. How you treat others, how you show up for yourself and for others, what you do on a daily basis. Your actions have to align with who you want to be. And you shouldn't forget that. at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what you possess. And if you're around the right people, they're not gonna give two fucks whether you have a Louis Vuitton bag or you just have a backpack from Walmart. Honestly, it's fucking irrelevant. People that are not shallow are gonna look at who you are as a person, not at what you have. They're gonna look at your knowledge, not at your possessions. And those are the people you really want to surround yourself with. People that you can have deep conversation about life, about business, about relationships, about health, about politics, shit like that. You want to have a very multidimensional approach to life. And you want to understand different dynamics, of how life operates and what matters. And not just, oh, let's go out, let's go eat, let's go to the store, let's go buy this, let's go buy that. I just bought a new car, what do you think? Blah, blah, blah. It really shouldn't matter what other people think at the end of the day. You need to validate yourself. And as I said, you need to be happy with who you are. But we have been trained in a way that we almost have to rely on that external validation because we never feel worthy. Because of social media. Social media has really ruined men and women in many ways. Most of the time, social media such as Instagram, you're only gonna see the nice pictures, highly edited pictures. And from what I've noticed and what I've discussed with others, let's say when it comes to women or females, they feel really insecure about who they are and what they look like. Because again, on Instagram, you're just gonna see the highlights, the perfect moments, the perfect pictures, that are not a real reflection of real life. And so some really beautiful women, and there is a lot of them, they just feel truly insecure about themselves to a point where they feel like they need surgeries, whatever those surgeries might be, because they think the standard for beauty is based on Instagram. When in reality, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. We are all beautiful in our own ways, and not everyone is going to relate to us. Not everyone is going to like us. It's understandable. But we all have beauty within ourselves. And it's not looks. It's who we are and the energy that we give out. It's how we treat others and how we treat ourselves. How much we respect ourselves, how disciplined we are able to stay. That ultimately is gonna determine how you come off of in front of others. And the energy a lot of the time is what people truly notice. It's not how you look like or what you wear. It's the energy that you give off of. Same with guys. You now have young guys, going on steroids when they're like 18 or 19 or even younger, because they just don't want to put in the fucking work. I spoke about delayed gratification. Building muscle and getting the body that you really desire and want, it's gonna take time. And it's gonna take a lot of time. And it's gonna take a lot of discipline. And it's gonna take a lot of consistency. It's also gonna take a lot of understanding about your body, what works for you and what doesn't. And you have to go through the trial and error and figure that out. And these guys, arguably they are ruining their life because they don't understand how to properly cycle steroids. They don't understand the importance of blood work, and they don't really understand the consequences. And that really comes down to the fact that, we are young and we feel invincible. We think nothing is gonna happen to us. I'm just gonna do 1 cycle, 2 cycles. What's the worst that can happen? The issue is that a lot can fucking happen, and you can alter your life in a way that may not be reversible if you're not smart about it. And so understanding, delayed gratification is really, really important. And you do want to go through the trenches. You do want to suffer a little bit or a lot. It kind of depends on how much you can really handle. And it's absolutely beautiful. You know why? Because in the process, we are going to learn a lot about ourselves and what we are capable of. We are going to obtain knowledge that we can share with others. Knowledge that you will not be able to obtain if you just skip the steps of understanding your body, learning what works for you, or perhaps even getting on steroids. A lot of people think that the moment you start testosterone, you're just gonna blow up. But the truth of the matter is, that's not how it works. If you don't have the correct training protocol, if you don't have the correct meal plan, and if you don't have the correct recovery protocol, you're not gonna grow. And it doesn't matter what you take. When you look at all these bodybuilders, whether they are IFBB Pro, now getting ready for Mr. Olympia in literally, I think, 2 weeks, you can clearly see that they put emphasis on everything. And yes, they are pro bodybuilders. That's how they make a living. But you can take a lot of inspiration from them. You can mimic a lot of the things that they do in their day-to-day life. And you don't catch them slipping. They stay true to themselves and what matters. And they understand that training and health, it's a multidimensional approach. And everything correlates together. And with that being said, you shouldn't be skipping any steps, and you should really put in the work, and you should really make the sacrifices. I'm gonna leave you with that, boys. There's a couple of things to talk about, to think about. But stop waiting for the right opportunity, and at the same time, stop skipping steps in your life, and also think about the consequences of your actions, because you could end up like the person in the car when I was going to the gym. I hope they are well, and they are gonna be able to recover. But at the end of the day, it looked pretty tragic. If I had to make the assumption alcohol was the influence or was a part of it, there was no reason for them to speed, especially in that area. And based on how the car looked like, the impact was really, really high. And so don't be stupid, because you're gonna fuck your life in ways that you can't even imagine. And no one is invincible. Life is gonna come and get you. It could come and get me tonight. You never fucking know. And that's why you gotta be ready. Not in a scared way, but you have to be prepared for anything, at any point, any moment. Because nothing in life is guaranteed. That's all.